I will never agree with early risers. That is an argument that I could, no matter what, never agree on. Is what I said 2 days ago when my friend told me that he was waking up at 4:30 a.m. Why would you wake up that early? I know you're watching this. My logic is that early rising accomplishes nothing. You don't get more time awake when waking up at 5 a.m. It can't be more productive if me waking up at 9 a.m. is getting the same amount of daytime hours as you waking up at 5. The darkness doesn't just fly away if you wake up at 5 a.m. It's definitely still there. And I know you're going to be going to bed at 8 p.m. But I love challenging my stubbornness when I'm the one doing it. So maybe I'll be wrong about... Now before we get into anything, I need to explain 2 words to you. Chronotype and circadian rhythm. Let's start off with the more commonly heard one, circadian rhythm. Circadian rhythm, defined by the National Cancer Institute, is the natural cycle of physical, mental, and behavior changes that a body goes through in a 24-hour cycle. So unlike common depiction, circadian rhythm isn't just about when your body determines itself tired. In reality, it's everything you feel and experience throughout the day. Circadian rhythm then takes all this information and produces the correct amount of corresponding hormones. AE, someone who hasn't gotten a lot of sunlight in a day, would have trouble going to sleep easier, since the environment they're in isn't causing their rhythm to produce melatonin. Same with depression. Someone suffering through depression would experience disruptions in their circadian rhythm, making it harder to sleep or feel bad throughout the day.
That'll be important later, don't forget that.
Chronotype is much more sleep-focused per se, defined as your body's natural preference to sleep and wake up at certain times of the day by UCLA. That's a very long stretch of letters. Chronotype is much more generic, AE natural preference. It's a hereditary process. Now that we know what both of these words mean, we can get into the real reason you're here. For me to tell you that you don't have to wake up early. When covering topics like this, I think it's very important for me to stay close to facts. This is real stuff with real science behind it. I do not want to interpret, meaning I actually sat down and read a scientific study. I'm too young for this shit. I felt the skin melting off my bones. And whilst my bones were melting, I couldn't seem to escape one specific set of words. The early bird gets the worm. Wake up and get your food early, since, no other birds are going to be up. This leads to my first problem with early risers, the bias that they are better than people that wake up later. There was a really good study by Jessica R. Deitch titled Implicit and Explicit Stigma of Chronotype in Emerging Adults, which showed that on average, night owls are seen as significantly more lazy, unhealthy, and immature compared to their early rising counterparts. This leads to obvious problems. If someone has an evening chronotype, they might have harder times finding jobs due to the stigma. This article by Majesty Skrlowski and Joanna Gorgel actually surveys a group of 768 people, which had their chronotype measured. They were then told to measure morningness, eveningness, positive and negative effect. Evening types felt more discrimination about their sleep habits, and that stigma explained part of why they had worse moods. This harms day-to-day function just because of stigmas, the most annoying part being that evening types are quite literally born like that. But there must be a reason for this, research backing this stigma, and luckily there is. A study published to JAMA Psychiatry showed that early risers have a much lower risk to MDD, or major depressive disorder, than night owls. Big fucking problem. You can't find this study anywhere. If you look up JAMA Psychiatry study showing early risers have lower risk of MDD and scroll for 3 pages, you will still not find the source. Instead, what you'll find is article upon article covering the actual study that you can't find. After extensive searching, I was able to find it. So let's read it. The JAMA Psychiatry study pulled genetic and sleep data from nearly 840,000 adults of European ancestry, mostly from huge biobanks like UK Biobank and 23andMe. Their findings showed that people with morning chronotypes have lower rates of depression than people with the opposite, going to the length of saying waking up 1 hour earlier can drop your odds of depression by 23%. My problem with this is correlation versus causation, which JAMA addresses in their paper. Getting out of bed earlier isn't just going to magically fix depression. What they looked at was chronotype, which, if you remember, is genetic. People who are naturally early risers have a lower chance of MDD than people who are naturally wake up later. How journalism spun this, though, was Oh, you're a night owl? Well, just wake up 1 hour earlier and boom, all your problems are just gonna magically fly away into fucking ass crack Narnia land. Yay! In fact, going against your chronotype can lead to exhaustion, increased rate of diabetes, increased heart rate, and higher risks of anxiety and depression. That's not it though. You're more likely to deprive yourself of sleep as well, causing more social jet lag, the problem that was supposed to be avoided by this. With the average work hour being during the day, one could infer that the reason these rates are higher is because they're having to go against their chronotype. Huge publishers like Harvard Medical not clarifying this clearly is harmful and it shouldn't happen. Things like this is how misinformation starts to get spread, and keeping that away from things that correlate to depression is a big deal, especially in a medical journal. And I also want to clarify, I'm not giving any slack to JAMA. They were 100% correct in their study. It just really seemed like journalism saw keywords and then ran with those keywords, which is not very professional. The reason I don't get early risers is because I'm not one. So go enjoy your damn sunrise, but just leave night owls out of it. To get rid of this stigma around people's brains running on different clocks is important to me. It's not fair and it's harmful, to be frank. The worst thing you can do for yourself is try to force yourself into someone else's schedule. All it will cause is confusion, frustration, and all that other stuff I listed from like 1 minute ago. Just go back there. So be a little easier on yourself. And if that means waking up at 11 a.m. and doing just as much as my friend who wakes up at 4:30, you know who you are. I know you're still watching this, and that's perfectly fine. All my sources will be in the description, probably in a Google Doc because I went a little overboard with my sources. But I encourage you to go check them out. Good journalism matters. Just like calling out the lazy stuff matters. Subscribe if you enjoyed. I had a lot of fun writing this one. And if anyone wants more in-depth discussions, I'll be in the comments. Okay. Peace.